everybody, it's Amy at Crafty Cat, and as you can see, we're going to talk about the needle felting thing again. I won't keep doing videos on this unless it's something that you guys want to see. However, I have had lots of questions, and so I figured the only way that I can really answer some of the things is to just kind of show you guys. What was I going to say? Oh, my biggest advice would be to start with something small. Like, this Santa Claus, this was after I had needle felted for a very long time that I tackled this project. And this guy took me probably about 200 hours. Because you kind of have to start, and I don't have a pattern. That was a question that I got a lot. Are there patterns for these? I've never found any quote unquote patterns. There are people on Etsy who sell like little kits that'll have all the colors that you need to make a snowman or something like that. And that is an awesome place to start, because a lot of times you even get a needle with it. And you get all the colors of felt that you need instead of trying to, or wool roving, instead of trying to, collect all those, because it does take a while. It's like anything. It's like the paper junk and everything else. You buy a color here and there until you've got a kind of a stash of colors. But anyway, so yeah, this guy took me about 200 hours. And this was after doing loads and loads of other things. And I don't have a pattern for him. He started with, like, at one point, this looked like a pregnant bald person because you kind of like start with the head as a circle, then you make like kind of an ovalish shape for the body, and then the limbs. And you can see the limbs here are just, I kind of just did them as a column or a solid sort of piece. The jacket starts getting felted in right there. But anyway, I just kind of did the little black shoes on him and stuff because I knew that this would be down here, but you might still peek a little bit of it. So really this part's kind of like a column that I just separated sort of with, just a needle felted line just by moving my needle back and forth along there to get kind of a division, if you want to say that. But anyway, it's sort of like a circle, an oval, column, arms are another cylindrical sort of a thing. I mean, they're solid, they're not a cylinder, but you know what I'm saying. You're just kind of adding pieces on. It really is sculpting. It really, really, truly is sculpting. You just keep adding bits and bits and bits until you get it the way you like it. And yeah, no pattern for that. I don't have patterns for any of the things I do. A lot of times I just go online, and like this one, I love old world Santas. So I, would look at pictures or drawn images or whatever of old world Santas and just kind of go from there. This is a curly wool roving. It has the curls in it. I don't do anything to get these curls. That's how this wool roving comes, it's all curls. And the same thing with this. It was just a different color, and I pulled it more. And these are more together, but if you pull them apart more strand by strand kind of thing, then you get more of a fluff than a curl. So that's that. But I wanted to show you guys. And here's our finished. Well, it's completely felted. I don't think it's finished because you could add beads and sequins or whatever you wanted to it, because you can sew right into this. You can stick any needle all the way through. So you could add anything. You could even glue, like hot glue, little sparkly things on there or whatever to finish off your snowflake. But this is what it looks like once it's all felted. And because when we took it out of here, I didn't have much detail, so I just kind of added this detail by poking in the sides and stuff like that. Okay, so there's our snowflake. And then this is where I started with needle felting, was a pumpkin. And that is a great place to start. Just get yourself some orange or white. It doesn't matter. Any color, especially if you have some wool roving, because like if you already do crochet or needle knitting or whatever, you might already have wool roving. Just pick a color and buy yourself a needle and start with a ball. And the easiest way to start with a ball, like I showed you guys the other day, but I got lots of questions, so I'm going to show you again. So here's my wool roving. I'm just going to take a piece off. And the easiest way to kind of start a ball or a circle or whatever, I like to kind of separate it a little bit because it does get kind of, you know, that real stiff, is tied in a knot. Tie the wool roving in a knot. And then what I do is sort of separate it, and I come back around the knot and I separate this side. And I come back around the knot. And so, you know, you're making a circle. So just something kind of like that to get started. And then you can just start needle felting it. Okay. And we're going to come back to this, but let me show you some other things, because I don't want you to think I just one day picked up a needle felting needle and I made this guy. It wasn't like that at all. I have a lot of really funky looking, sketchy, like my cats. I can't make cats to save my life. I mean, yeah, they're silly cats. They're not meant to look like real cats, but I stink at cats. I have cats. I've always had cats. I can't needle felt a cat for anything. So just to show you that it doesn't always go the way you want. And when you're learning to do something, you know, I was learning to put the little arms and the little legs and all those kind of things on. And these ones I've just poked the needles into, like I told you, like, you know, stick pins or whatever. I do cut the tips off just so if it does poke all the way through, it's not going to stab somebody. And I do tend to go kind of downward so that it's going into the body of the cat rather than out the back and sticking out the back. If that makes sense. And same thing, I did that, and then I added the little nose and the little bow and all that. And then I've done weird looking things like this turkey. But you can see it all, you know, like these all are with those basic circular type shapes is how they start. And then I have the funny little baby that I added glitter to. It's like a snow baby. And this one is just little bits of black roving. Oh my gosh, sorry. It's the same roving that you use, you know, for the face and everything. You just add just a little bit and go around in a circle. Don't push hard, because if you push hard, you're going to poke those eyes all the way to the back of the head of the thing. It's a very sort of a careful thing. You know what I mean? You just got to gently do it. And these are all things that I just learned by playing with the wool roving. This one has pipe cleaners. So you can take, like, I have the center here that I've done more oval rather than circle. And then I put pipe cleaners into it, much like this little bird. I stuck the pipe cleaners. You can snip a little hole with some scissors, stick the pipe cleaners in. I did add glue to these ones, so I just left those like that. But you can needle felt around them as well. And so then you can, you know, pose it however you want to, whatever goofy thing you want to do with that, you can. It's kind of just fun. Makes great legs. Okay, and then I have really ugly pieces like this. I did a really weird looking reindeer that I don't have anymore. I threw that one out, but my son teased me all the time. He kept it for a while and would tease me that it looked like a dog, and it was bad. It was real bad. Like, this is pretty bad. But I've done bunnies, and then, you know, I got to the point where I could make a decent looking bunny. It's just time. It just takes a lot of time and practice, like everything I say all the time. Train your brain. That's the only way you can do. You can't just sit down one day and make the big, you know, this kind of thing, just boom. You have to, like, play with it to figure out what it feels like. If I do this is what happens. Because, like, the Santa face, this Santa face is much better than this Santa face. I mean, this one's not bad, but I did a lot of these because this is just a ball, so it's just the head of the Santa, and, you know, put his hat on and all that, and did his little curly beard and stuff. But, like, his eyes are okay. And I've done some with really creepy eyes. Like, tried different things. Like, I think I tried paint or something like that. Real creepy. I would just stick with the felt, or like little dots or things like that. Like this. This is a great place to start a face. with just the little black dots and a little round nose. So it is a progression. It's not like this one I did eyes closed, little nose. So those are just black slits, and he kind of lays on his side like he's sleeping. So yeah, and stuff like this is another good place to start. It's a whobill tree. But just making little balls. And this one I didn't felt a whole lot. This one feels almost more like a stuffed animal type. It's real squishy. And then some of the other ones are a lot harder. Like he's much more dense. He's not as squishy as that one. And it just comes with playing with the felt. And then you can do things like if you get wool clothing. This was a wool jacket that I cut apart, and I made stuffed pumpkins out of the sleeves and stuff like that, and I had pieces left, and so this is a piece that I stitched together, stuffed it, and it, because it's wool, I can felt into it a little bit. It's a little harder. It doesn't, it works pretty darn good, but it's a little different. But just made a mushroom with leaves and all that. So it does take some practice. Another good thing, because now we're kind of moving away from the whole Christmas thing, is you could make Easter eggs. That would be a great starting place, because you can essentially start with, tying a knot. Just try to get it more oval shaped than circular. That's kind of how I got bunny body. And, then you add the face on. Just try not to make it scary like I did. But, it's just all practice. It just is. And there's some things that I stink at making, like the cats. I just cannot make the cats look right. That's just how it is. You just play with it and figure out what you're good at. This one's real easy. This is a good one. These funny little birds, because this is basically just the circle with the little tuft of a tail and little bit of wing, and super easy, simple eyes. Just do the little hat on it. But anyhow, I will kind of show you how we can get to the pumpkin. So how you all doing? I hope you're doing good. I hope I answered questions, and like I said, if you have more questions, please ask, because I have no problem answering. And getting these started is kind of awkward, because this is weird blob right now, but it will start to come together. You just have to keep turning it, especially for, to get a circle. You're going to need to keep turning it round and round and get that going. But I hope you're doing good. Our weather is pretty good here today. I think we're just going to be cloudy for the next 5 days from what I can gather. So, yeah. It's cold, but it's not awful. It's not like a minus temperature or anything like a lot of people are having in Canada and places like that. So I feel for you guys, because I don't know how you do it. I can't do that negative temperature thing very well. Turn into a complete wuss. Not for me. It's kind of like the extreme heat. Don't like either. But anyway, yeah, this is going to start to look weird. And if you get one side, like this side's probably going to look weird no matter what I do to it. It can be the bottom, but you can also add kind of another layer over the top of the original layer. So you just, like I said, you just got to keep playing with it and figure out what works. Oh, and somebody else asked me if it hurts my hands. I have arthritis in my thumbs, and it does, but so does everything else. So I don't know. I still do my crafting, even though some days I wish I wouldn't, or some days I can't, but for the most part, some days I got to put on my compression gloves, and then that does help. But pretty much anything, any paper crafting, anything can get it aggravated, just depending on whatever it is. And you know what it's the holding. Like this hand will almost hurt worse than this hand, even though this is the one doing the repetition. It's that holding thing. It's the same when I cut paper, like fussy cut. I end up all a mess in my left hand just from holding the paper. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, but it is a thing. So obviously, if you want a bigger something, then you're going to want to use a bigger piece. You're going to want to make a bigger knot. You know what I mean? So that you don't have to just keep adding and adding and adding. And I haven't done this in quite a few years, so I mean, I'm almost in some ways starting over. Obviously, there's tricks that I do know that I remember, but there's stuff I don't remember too. You know what I mean? So then when I start doing something, I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do it like this. So, I mean, it's just kind of the way it is. But yeah, you'll see I kind of grab pieces like this. And I could use the bigger needle, but in the beginning I like the single needle because the bigger one with the multiple needles just smashes stuff like this. I mean, if you're wanting to do something flat, that's definitely something you can do. I haven't looked in a while. There may be places like on Etsy that do patterns for needle felting. I wouldn't even know where to begin with that because, like I said, it's sort of a process or a trial and error thing. Like I would be afraid if I was selling a pattern and somebody did something just a little bit different, then they might get frustration because they think they're following the pattern, but it really is a finesse thing. Like you don't want to poke too hard. Everybody's going to do it a little different is what I'm saying. So what works for me may not work for you. And so I kind of like doing stuff like this and just giving you tips a little more because you may find you like to do a circle or a ball or whatever in a completely different way. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're getting the same sort of result or a result that you want doesn't even have to be the same, then that's the point, right? Because there's no hard and fast rules. Oh, you can only do it this way. It's not like crocheting or something where you can say do 40 stitches on this line and then go to the next line and do 30 stitches. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not like that because, as you can see, it's sculpting. So you're just looking at it with your eyes and saying, okay, I need more of this here. I need more of that there. I need to poke this side more because it's not looking like a circle. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to pause the camera. I'm going to keep poking this, to try to just get it together. I won't do anything else. I'm just going to get it to where it's coming together. I just don't want you guys to have to sit and watch me poke and poke. So I'll be right back. Okay, I've got it down to kind of, it's still a little bit soft, especially on top, but we're going to, do some more work to it. And you can see this side is flat, which obviously if you're trying to make a circle or a ball, you're going to work to get that flat part gone. But because this piece would probably be sitting somewhere, as a pumpkin, I'm going to have it stay. That flat part doesn't bother me. That's what I'm trying to say. Easy for me to say, right? So we'll just poke it a little bit more. And this is kind of what I did. I just set it down and I'm just turning and poking and turning and poking. And a lot of people said that's real boring. And yeah, it is if you're just standing here doing this. But I do like to do these projects when I'm like watching TV with my family or whatever. I can't just sit and watch TV. So for me, this type of thing is perfect because I can still pay attention to what's going on and whatever we're watching, but I'm doing something at the same time, so that just works well for me. Okay, so I have that like that. Then what you're going to do, it looks more like a gumdrop kind of, doesn't it? Is you're going to start just doing those side, I don't know what you'd call them, those side lines that are on the pumpkin. So you're kind of just making a line using your needle. And this is a little tricky because it's so tiny as far as I don't want to poke myself. So I come all the way around when I do it. It's sort of like cutting a pie, right? And as you do this, you're gonna go, ooh, this looks like it's gonna be a tall, skinny pumpkin, or you can make them however you want. Whatever makes it look like a pumpkin more to you. So you don't have to do it exactly the way I'm doing it. I'm just showing you how I do it. And like I said, because it's like sculpting, it's sort of like seeing a face in something like this. Say I looked at this for a while, the texture of it, whatever, and eventually I could pick out a face or a cat or a bunny or whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? It's sort of like that, because you have to be able to visualize where you're going. And you may think you're going one place, and the next thing you know, you're like, oh, but it looks like it has this, or it's this kind of a thing. It's this shape of a pumpkin, not the shape that I was originally going for. This bunny has this kind of ears. I thought they were going to be standing straight up, but I think I want one flopped over. Do you know what I mean? It sort of progresses, like many of the artistic things that we do. It's because all of a sudden in your eye, you see something that you hadn't before, or something that you hadn't thought of before. And that, leads you in a different direction with the whole process. So you just got to kind of be open to that, because a lot of times they don't go exactly as you might want, like my weird little pink bunny or my cats, for example. You think I could do cats. I've been around them my entire life, but nope. So yeah, you just gotta kind of be open to the possibility of it not looking exactly like you wanted, because chances are, like many artistic endeavors, it won't. It takes on a life of its own almost. And I think that's just the natural way of it, in my opinion. And so see, now I'm making more of that funny little bottom that some pumpkins have as those lines come together, and that goes in the inside of the pumpkin kind of thing. And this one might not be great because it's very tiny. And some people can do some real tiny ones, that's for sure. But I'm more comfortable sort of in this size range, the gnomes and all that. The larger ones take a whole lot more felt. I didn't add any wool. I didn't add any more wool to this than what you guys saw me add, but you could keep adding, as you're making your circle, if you're thinking, oh, it's getting too small or whatever, because it obviously is going to get smaller, because as you felt it, it shrinks, So you may want to add more depending on what you're making. So keep that in mind as you go along. And you could split that again, but I don't know that I guess I can try it. But that's what works best for me to get the lines. I don't know, other people might do it differently. There's lots of videos on needle felting, so if you are interested. And I know there's people that's like their main thing that they do on their channel, because I did watch those in the beginning when I was just starting out. And I haven't in a long time, so I'm not really sure who or what, but I know that there are videos on needle felting. And some of the artists are just, it's incredible. They make amazing animals and all kinds of stuff out of wool. I kind of do this more cutesy little type stuff because that's the attention span that I have. But I did make it through that Santa somehow. I was determined to make myself a kind of old world Santa. But yeah, that was a labor of love for sure. It was a couple months, because I can't sit down and work on it for 200 hours, right? So it was just, watching TV, whatever, work on it a little, put it away, work on it again, put it away. So yeah, that was definitely a process with that guy. And I know I stopped and made other things and then came back to it, because you do get kind of worked on this long enough. If you've ever done like a large needlepoint or hooked rug or those kind of things, you know, sometimes you just gotta put it away. At journals sometimes too. I mean, there's been times when I'm like, why did I start this? But I think that's what we do. I don't know. And then later you come back to it and you're like, oh yeah, why didn't I finish this? So I don't know. It's like everything. But this is time consuming, and it is, you know, sort of mundane. Like, I find it super relaxing, which is great for me. That's why I craft in the first place. So for me, it's great. But I get when people say, oh, that's not for me, that takes too much time. I get it, believe me. And it's good that you know that about yourself, that you can say, hey, that'll drive me over the edge, which I get. But for me, I find it super relaxing. And it's kind of crazy because I don't like doing the same task over and over again. Like, I can't make journal ephemera because I just get completely bored doing that. But for some reason, I think it's because it's sort of like coloring or something. It just sort of puts me in a relaxing frame of mind, and so I can just keep doing it. And like I said, I usually have something else going on to keep my interest or, you know, my brain going, that kind of thing. So I find it fun, but I understand it is not for everybody, for sure. Trying to think of what other questions I had. I had quite a few. Most of them were where do you get patterns and that. Like I said, I don't know if anybody does patterns for them. I do know there are some people that do the smaller kits, like with simpler stuff like this. Just because you can tell people, you know, tie it in a knot and felt it until it's a circle, or, you know what I'm saying? It's a little bit easier, and then maybe show in a diagram doing the lines down the side or whatever. But a big piece, I just don't know how you would possibly do a pattern, just because, like I said, it depends on how you do things, how you felt, how, you know, I don't know how you would do it, so I wouldn't know how to do it, is what I'm gonna say about that. Let me see if I can find some green. There we go. So this is just another piece that isn't in a ball, it's just a piece, but it's the same thing. And then you kind of just grab off a piece. I have done the little, what are they called? Like the vines, you know. I've gone around on bigger pumpkins, pipe cleaners, and, you know, you can make them curly and stuff like that by wrapping them around a pencil or a little dowel or something like that. But clearly this pumpkin is super duper tiny, and so we're going to just try to get sort of a line of felt, or a line of wool that is felted. And this is just came in packaging, because a lot of people, you know, are curious about what that is. It's just foam that came in packaging, and that's mostly what I use. You can buy mats and things to do needle felting on, but like everything else, I always go the cheapest way possible. Because I just never have, you know, just been able to spend whatever I want on crafts. So I just kind of use what I have. And it took me a long time to collect up some different colors of the roving and stuff like that. And like I said, at that time, that's all I was doing. I wasn't doing any of these other things that I do now. And that took me a long time to collect that stuff up. So, but that's why I say, if you just want to try your hand at it, you might want to try finding one of those little kits, because you know, they're not super expensive, and you can get all the colors you need in one at one go, so it's really a good deal. So then I'm just kind of putting it in however, you know, sculpting. In some spots I won't felt at all because I want them to, you know, stay sticking up a little bit. And then we'll do like a little leaf, which obviously you guys kind of know what a leaf looks like. That's going to have to be smaller than that. But like a flat edge, I'm going to come in just a little bit because you guys probably are going to struggle to see this. So kind of a wider end at one side and then a narrower end at the other, you know, a shape of a leaf. This mat really does work pretty good, and like I said, it was just packaging, because the felt doesn't felt into it quite as bad as it does on those other just foam, regular foam mats that I have, or pieces. But it will start to hold a shape. I mean, it just does, you know. And obviously this is super tiny. You're probably not going to want to do one this tiny. I just was trying to do something that I could do quickly to show you guys sort of all the way through. I mean, yeah, I didn't show you every bit of the felting process because you would have wanted to scream by the time we got this far, but you may already want to scream. And then I'm just going to kind of put it on. And you can see I left this, this end up here like looser. It's not as tightly felted as this end, and that's so that when I put it on here and felt it into the pumpkin, it's got some threads to grab onto, and they'll get felted as they go in. I'm just going to come down the whole length of that so that hopefully I can sort of keep that shape. Obviously, on a larger scale, this is much easier. So I would definitely say start with a larger piece, like not the size of the Santa, but I have done large pumpkins though, like that, and that works out pretty good because you can obviously see it better. And you might notice some little fibers or like straw or things like that in your felt. That's pretty normal. I mean, a lot of places are super good at combing it and getting all of that out, but it seems this type of more marled or more bumpy fibers, they don't comb as much because they're trying to give you some of that texture. And so see, like there's little bits of hay or whatever it is that you might find in there. I was just noticing there's some little flakes of something, I don't know. But anyways, that's not super abnormal, just because, I mean, let's face it, these come off of, the roving comes off of sheep, and the more you comb it and wash it, obviously, the cleaner it's going to get, but then you're also running that line of possibly felting it, because you can do water felting as well. They do that a lot for maybe like handbags, vests, clothing items. You can take the roving and under warm water, rub it, you know, vigorously, and it'll start to felt. It's just hard to keep it nice and flat, like sheets of fabric is really kind of what they're making. And you can watch videos on wet felting. I don't do that, so I don't know a whole bunch about it. I mean, I have done it like around a bar of soap. You can take a piece of felt like this and put it around soap and then warm felt it, because it's the soap and the warm water that will felt around that soap, and then let it dry and give it as a gift. And then it's sort of like having a washcloth around a bar of soap, if you know what I mean. So look up wet felting if you're interested in that. I don't I mean, I have done like one of those bars of soap to try it and stuff like that, but I don't do wet felting. I like needle felting better. But that's another way of doing it. It is quicker for sure, but you're not going to get the detail, obviously. Like, you're not going to get anything that looks like that. You're going to get more a ball or a flat piece or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So anyways, there is our fabulous little tiny pumpkin, but this one was done same way. So I just wanted to show you guys that, and like I said, I will go back to paper tomorrow. I wanted to make sure, hopefully, that I get people's questions answered. Oh, I can show you real quick. So this is what the curly locks look like, and mine's kind of sad because I've just had it in this bag for a while. You can do things like when you purchase it, you can hang it and stuff like that, and then hopefully you won't get quite as matted as this has gotten. But for the gnomes I just pulled it apart, and I didn't have any trouble, felting it and making it look nice. And this has a lot of fibers, stuff in it still, and that I've noticed happens. It's just they can't comb it. They're going to comb all the curl out. And like I said, washing it too much, you're going to end up walking the line of felting it. So, I'll just try to get it all cleaned out as much as I can. And then when you put it on, what I did with this guy is you kind of fold it in half. Or if you have a good end, you just hold it up to the face and felt it into the face or the under part or wherever you're wanting to put it at the moment. Let me see if I can find. So like this Santa, I did a smaller piece to give him more of a mustache. These guys don't really have as much detail as the Santas do. So when I do the Santas, I'll take like a half a piece, and you can do this kind of thing too to try to keep that curl in a little bit better. You would fold it in half, put it right up under his nose, poke it in there to kind of see how this is a little bit shorter looking than all these long pieces down here. So that's how you're gonna get that kind of a look. These were mostly just folded and poked right in, and that gives you the curls. And then I also did for this one, because he has the body, I poked a little bit to kind of attach it onto the body. Obviously this guy, he's just got the free floating curly locks, and I did do some hair, but I pulled it further apart. Like this gray, I've pulled these little ringlets apart more, and that gives you, like I said, more like the fluff that's on this Santa here rather than the ringlets like that, if that makes sense. So yeah, these are all things that are part of the whole deal. So you just have to play with it. That's all I can really tell you. And like I said, starting out, this simple thing like this, or what we did with the snowflake I would say is probably the simplest, because there's no other colors or details on it. You could sew stuff onto it, or do sew stitching on it would be kind of cool too, because you could do some cool knots and things like that on something like this, because it's nice and flat. This would be harder, but you could probably still do it. I think that's all. All right, I hope you guys have a fabulous, fabulous day, and I will see you tomorrow. Love you guys. Bye.